Nursing management of burns. Introduction. Whenever the nurse cares for the burns patient, she should have adequate knowledge and she should know what are the physiological changes has occurred in the body, as well as astute assessment skills to detect the subtle changes in the patient's condition. Nursing assessment. Here the nursing assessment mainly focuses on the major priorities for any trauma patient. The burn wound is taken as a secondary consideration. Focusing on the major priorities of any trauma patient. So as said earlier, the burn wound will be considered as a secondary thing, and although aseptic management of the burn wound and invasive line continues, we should follow. Assess circumstances surrounding the injury. So here we should find the time of injury, mechanism of burn, whether the burn occurred in closed space, the possibility of inhalation of noxious chemicals, and any related trauma. Monitor vital signs frequently. Monitor respiratory status, evaluate apical, carotid and femoral pulses, particularly the areas of circumferential burn injury to any extremity. If it's indicated, start cardiac monitoring. Mainly the patient has any cardiac or respiratory problems and the burns caused due to electrical injury. Check peripheral pulses, mainly extremities, and if you are unable to check, use Doppler as needed. Monitor fluid intake and output, that is hourly intake and output chart should be maintained. So most of the patient we will be inserting the urinary catheters. Every hourly we have to check the intake and output. Obtain history, assess patient's body temperature, body weight, and history of pre-burn weight and any history of allergies, and we should give tetanus immunization and any past medical surgical problems, current illness and use of any medications. In case of facial burns, we have to assess the corneal injury and continue assess the extent of burn, assess depth of wound and identify areas of full and partial thickness injury. And we should also assess the neurological status, mainly the patient's level of consciousness, psychological status, pain, anxiety level and behavior. And we should also assess the patient's and family understanding of injury and treatment and the patient's support system and coping skills. Acute phase that is also called as intermediate phase, that will start from 48 to 72 hours after the burn injury. Here mainly we should focus on the burn wound care and pain control are the highest priorities. Also focus on hemodynamic alterations, wound healing, pain and psychosocial responses and early detection of complications. And every second hourly check the vital signs, respiratory status, fluid status, and these are the things considered as highest priority. And assess peripheral pulses frequently for first few days after the burn for restricted blood flow, and closely observe hourly fluid intake and urine output and blood pressure, cardiac rhythm changes, and immediately should be report to the surgeon. In case the burn is caused due to any inhalation, regularly monitor the level of consciousness, pulmonary function and ability to ventilate. And if in case the patient we have intubated on ventilator, so mainly frequently we should do the suctioning and assess the airway. Coming to the rehabilitation phase, rehabilitation should begin immediately after the burn has occurred. Here the rehabilitation we should consider wound healing, psychosocial support, restoring maximal functional activity. These are the things consider as highest priority, and maintain fluid and alkaline balance and improve nutritional status. And in early assessment, obtain information about patient's educational level, occupation, leisure activity, cultural background, religion and family interactions. And we should also assess the self-concept, mental status, emotional response to the injury and hospitalization, level of intellectual functioning, previous hospitalizations if it's anything, and response to pain, pain tolerance, and pain relief measures and sleeping pattern. Perform ongoing assessments related to rehabilitation goals, including range of motion in the mainly affected joints, functional abilities and activities of daily living, early signs of skin breakdown from splints or positioning devices, and any evidence of neuropathies, that is neurological damage, activity intolerance, and quality or condition of healing skin. And whatever the things we are assessing, everything should be documented, and document participation and self-care abilities in ambulation, eating, wound healing and applying pressure wraps. Nursing diagnosis for burn injuries include: first, impaired gas exchange related to carbon monoxide poisoning, smoke inhalation and upper airway obstruction. Second, ineffective airway clearance related to edema and effects of smoke inhalation. Fluid volume deficit related to increased capillary permeability and evaporative losses from burn wound. Hypothermia related to loss of skin microcirculation and open wounds. And maintain comprehensive and continuous assessment for early detection of complication. So we have to do some specific assessment as needed based on the priority, and post-operative assessment of patient undergoing in primary excision. Pain related to tissue and nerve injury, anxiety related to fear and the emotional impact of burn injury. Planning and goals. First, maintenance of adequate tissue oxygenation, maintenance of patent airway and adequate airway clearance, restoration of optimal fluid and electrolyte balance and perfusion of vital organs, and maintenance of adequate body temperature, control of pain, minimization of patients and family anxiety. Coming to the nursing priorities: maintain patent airway, respiratory function, restore hemodynamic stability, that is temperature, pulse, respiration and saturation. These are all the things we have to monitor. And alleviate pain, prevent complication, provide emotional support for patient and significant others, provide information about condition, prognosis and treatment. Nursing intervention. Nursing care of a patient with burn injury needs to be precise and effective. Promoting gas exchange and airway clearance. Always provide humidified oxygen, monitor arterial blood gas and pulse oximetry, carboxyhemoglobin level, assess blood sound, respiratory rate, rhythm, depth and symmetry, monitor for any hypoxia. And observe for signs of inhalation injury, any blistering of lips or buccal mucosa, synced nostrils, any burn in the face, neck, chest, and any hoarseness of voice or soot in sputum or respiratory secretions. And in case any labored respiration, decreased depth of respiration or signs of hypoxia, we have to inform physician immediately and prepare to assist with intubation and escharotomies, and monitor ventilator, mechanically ventilator, and institute aggressive pulmonary care measures, turning, coughing, deep breathing, periodic forceful inspiration using spirometer we can provide, and tracheal suctioning. Maintain proper positioning to promote removal of secretion and patent airway to promote optimal chest expansion, and use artificial airway if it's needed. Restoring fluid and electrolyte balance. So monitor vital signs, urine and output every hourly, and central venous pressure. If the patient has, most of the patient anyway will be having the central venous line in order to assess the fluid volume deficit and fluid volume excess, and pulmonary artery pressure and cardiac output. Note and report signs of hypolemia or fluid overload. And so this hypolemia or fluid overload will be monitored based on the CVP. So CVP is decreased, we will say that it's a fluid volume deficit, and increased CVP, that is about 10 mm of Ig, we will say it's a fluid volume excess. And maintain IV lines and regular fluids at appropriate rates as prescribed, and all the things whatever we are doing, everything should be documented, including intake and output and daily weight. Elevate the head of bird and bird extremities. Monitor serum electrolyte level, mainly sodium, potassium, calcium, phosphorus and bicarbonate, and recognize the electrolyte imbalance. We know the normal value of sodium 135 to 145, potassium 3.5 to 5.5, calcium 8.5 to 10.5, and phosphorus 1.5 to 2.5, bicarbonate we will know that 22 to 26. So these are all the normal values you have to monitor. If there is any deficit or excess, we have to inform. Notify physician immediately of decreased urine output, blood pressure, central venous, pulmonary artery or pulmonary wedge pressure, or increased pulse rate. Maintaining normal body temperature. So to maintain normal body temperature, provide warm environment, use heat shield, space blanket, heat lights or blankets, assess core body temperature frequently, work quickly when wounds must be exposed to minimize heat loss from the wound. Minimizing pain and anxiety. Use a pain scale to assess pain level from 1 to 10. Numerical pain scale we can use, and differentiate between restlessness due to pain and restlessness due to hypoxia. Administer opioid analgesic and morphine we can, in the diluted morphine we can administer as per doctor's order, and assess response to medication. Observe for respiratory depression in patient who is not mechanically ventilated. Always keep on providing emotional support, reassure the patient, and simple explanation about each procedures. Assess patient and family understanding of burn injury and coping strategies, family dynamics and anxiety levels. Provide individualized responses to support patient and family coping, and whatever procedures you are doing, give a clear and explanation in a simple terms. Provide pain relief measures and give anti-anxiety medications if the patient remains highly anxious and agitated after psychological interventions. Monitoring and managing potential complication. So potential complication assess for acute respiratory failure, that is increased dyspnea, stridor, it's a harsh whistling sound, and changes in respiratory pattern. Monitor pulse oximetry, ABG values. So ABG values mainly we should assess for respiratory acidosis and respiratory alkalosis. And to detect problematic oxygen saturation if it's going less than 60, and increased carbon dioxide level if it's going, normally is 35 to 45, if the carbon dioxide level is going beyond 45, we have to inform. And monitor chest x-ray, assess for cerebral hypoxia, that is we should assess for restlessness, confusion, and report deteriorating. And respiratory status, immediately monitor and inform to the physician and assist as needed with intubation or escharotomy. So all the intubation equipments with the ventilator, everything should get any time for the patient to do the intubation. Distributive shock, monitor early signs of shock. The main signs of distributive shock is decreased urine output, cardiac output, pulmonary artery pressure, pulmonary capillary wedge pressure, blood pressure, or increasing pulse rate or progressive edema. Here we should administer fluid as ordered in response to physical findings and continue monitoring fluid status. Acute renal failure. Monitor and report abnormal urine output and quality blood urea level, urea and creatinine. So normal it will be less than 40, creatinine less than 1.2. This should be monitored and assess for urine hemoglobin or myoglobin. Administer increased fluids as prescribed. Coming to the compartment syndrome. Assess pulses, peripheral pulses suborally, that dorsalis pedis, and with the Doppler assess neurovascular status of extremities suborally and assess for warmth, capillary fill, sensation and movement, and remove blood pressure cuff after each reading, elevate burned extremities, report any extremity pain or loss of peripheral pulses or sensation. If the patient doesn't have sensation in any body part, that should be informed immediately, and prepare to assist with escharotomies. Paralytic ileus. Maintain nasogastric tube on low intermittent suction until bowel sound resume. So till we are assuming the bowel sound, we have to keep the nasogastric tube with the low intermittent suction, and auscultate abdomen regularly for any abdominal distension, and we should notice for the bowel sound. Curling ulcer, assess gastric aspirate for blood and pH, and assess stools for occult blood, and administer antacids and histamine blockers, example ranitidine. Restoring normal fluid balance. Monitor IV and oral fluid intake, use IV infusion pump, and measure intake and output, daily weight, report changes, any blood pressure, pulse. Preventing infection. So prevent infection, we should provide a clean and safe environment, protect patient from sources of cross contamination like from visitors or restrict visitors, isolate the patient. So isolate the patient from other patients, and we should provide exclusive staff for the burns patient, and closely scrutinize wound to detect early signs of infection. Monitor culture results and white blood cells count. Practice clean technique for wound care procedures and aseptic technique for any invasive procedures. Use meticulous hand hygiene before and after contact with the patient, and caution patient to avoid touching wound. So better you should not touch the wound with the bars, hand, dressings, and wash unburned areas and change linen regularly. Maintain adequate nutrition. Initiate oral fluid slowly, and once the bowel sound resume, we can start right to feeding, and maybe increased gradually, and the patient may be advanced to a normal diet or 2 feedings. And collaborate with the dietitian to plan a protein and caloric rich diet acceptable to patient, and encourage family to bring nutritious and patient's favorite food, and provide the food which contain vitamin and minerals. Document caloric intake. So when we are inserting a feed, that rights to feed, whatever the calories we are giving, the bolus feeding, everything should be monitored, and it should be documented in the intake and output chart, and weigh patient daily and maintain a graph sheet. Promoting skin integrity. Assess wound status, support patient during distressing and painful wound care, coordinate complex aspects of wound care and dressing changes, assess burn for size, color, odor, eschar, exudate epithelial buds, that is small, pure like clusters of cells on the wound surface, any signs of bleeding, presence of granulation tissue, the status of graft take, and healing of donor site. And even we should assess the condition of the surrounding skin and report any significant changes, inform all the members of the healthcare team of latest wound care procedures. So we should update the wound care protocols. So make sure that everything knows the re-updation of the protocols in wound care, and assist, instruct, support and encourage patient and family to take part in dressing changes and wound care, and early assess strength of patient and family in preparing for discharge and home care. Relieving pain and discomfort. Frequently assess pain and discomfort, administer analgesic and anxiolytic medication as prescribed, assess and document the pain response, and even after giving the pain medication we should assess the level of pain and compare with the previous pain score and after pain score, and teach patient relaxation technique and some control over wound care and analgesia, and always reassure the patient. So non-pharmacological measures for pain control like guided imaginary, some distraction, we can tell stories to distract the patient mind, music therapy we can give based on the patient's perception and response to pain, hypnosis, virtual reality are also useful. And assess the patient's sleep pattern, administer sedatives, work quickly to complete treatment and dressing changes. Encourage patient to use analgesic medication before painful procedures. Promote comfort during healing phase. So antipruritic agents provide a cool environment. Frequent lubrication of the skin with water or silica based lotion, and start with mild exercises, splinting to prevent skin contracture, and devotional activities. Thank you.